Do you ever feel overwhelmed by all of the options, all the techniques, the products, different things you can do on your scrapbook pages? Well, in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my process and show you how to narrow down your choices and make decisions for your layouts. Before we get going with all the beautiful, pretty things in front of me, I figured we'd start where a lot of you start, which is with your photos. So I've gone ahead and printed some photos from my recent trip to Utah. I was lucky enough to go to the Stampin' Up! Headquarters, as well as close to my heart, with my good friends, Erin and Jama. So I have a bunch of photos from that trip, and I wanted to get these scrapped. So a lot of you are going to be starting with photos and then picking a design. How do you want to put these together on a page? Well, when I'm starting a new project, if I'm going to start with my photos and I know I want to use a sketch as well, I will usually start with both at the same time. So here is a sketch from the Creative Design Team 12x12 sketchbook. This is an awesome book. It has all of the grayscale sketches as well as the cutting guide below. I've just printed mine off, and you can do that whole punch it, put it in a binder, or you can get it bound. And I think I'm going to go with this layout because I love how many different photos I can put in here. Some of these photos, I actually did print them out at 2x2 because they're just a tiny little part of the story. There's some photos that, you know, I might leave out if I was doing a layout with less photo opportunities. But since I have this nice little strip of 2x2 photos I can do down here, then I decided to go ahead and use some of those smaller things like my lunch in the airport before I left, and, you know, views out the windows and things like that. So if I'm going to be starting a layout, knowing that I want to use a sketch, I will select my sketch and my photos at the same time so that I kind of know how many spots I have. If you already have printed photos, then you can go look through your sketches and find a sketch that fits. But when I'm starting out just going to print my photos, then I like to do kind of those steps at the same time. Now from there, it is time to choose your paper collection. Well, just so happens close to my heart has this beautiful travel collection called Let's Go Anywhere. And not only do I have the collection with the stickers, I also have the die cut paperboard pieces. These are kind of like a really thin chipboard. They're nice and sturdy, and I can color those up in different ways, or I can leave them that color. And then I also picked up these really fun stamp sets. So this one is from the Cardmaking workshop, and then these two are just the Cardmaking and Scrapbooking stamp and thin cut sets. I know the thin cuts for these are sold out, but I think they're just regular stamp sets are still available. And then this one, last time I checked for the card kit, there was just a few left. I love working in collections like this because it does narrow your choices. If you get stumped on where to even start, when you narrow it down to a collection pack, you know what colors you have, you know all the papers go together, the stickers, the stamps, everything coordinates, which is one of the things I really love about Close to My Heart. And I just think that it's a great way to take away some of those decisions. If you're trying to pull just random papers from different collections, it's just inevitably going to take you longer. So I knew I wanted something with a travel theme. And honestly, I have all kinds of colors in these photos. A lot of like blue and neutral colors. There's a little bit of like red, yellow, greens in there. Jane was wearing pink, so there's some pink in there, which there's not pink in my collection, but I don't usually let that stop me. If there's just a little hint of a color, my photos are overwhelmingly neutral. Same with this one here. It has some pink and some bright yellow in it, which I do not have in this paper collection. Overwhelmingly, the colors will go really well with this collection, so I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now, if you are wanting to use a technique, maybe it's like a new mixed media technique you just learned or something like that, you got some new specialty inks or mists or whatever it is, you can also start your process based on that technique. You can really start with anything you want. You can start with the story, the design, the technique, the paper collection, your photos. You choose what works for you, but the crucial thing is to make a decision and go with it. You don't need to see all your options. As soon as you find the first good option, do that and it will be okay. So next step in this process is deciding what papers to use. You have your sketch, you have your photos, but what paper from that collection you chose are you going to use? This is probably one of the things that I spend the longest time on. Between that and rearranging embellishments are my two longest parts of the process. But you just kind of have to just start and try things. So I was thinking, because this pattern is super busy, this is probably not something that I would have a lot of it showing, but I thought because my sketch has quite a bit of this background paper covered, I could do something like that and have a nice border running around. There's going to be about a 1-inch border on all sides. Then I can use that pattern, but it's not overwhelming the page. So that's what I'm thinking we'll try. This is French vanilla because that's the white in this collection. I love using white on my pages. I just think it helps everything look really nice, and it's such a go-to neutral for me. That way, if I want to stamp on the background, I can, and it will show up. Now I have Toffee here, and in the sketch, there is like a little border. So I'm just trying this out to see if it's going to work. I want to keep these layers pretty subtle because there's more papers that are going to get layered on top, plus your photos. So then once I have that, I would just kind of lay my photos out and see how those are looking. So I'm going to have 4 little photos along here at the bottom, like that. Something like that anyways. Now I still need to pick papers to layer under here and also a strip of paper to layer under here. I think this green could be a really nice subtle pattern to put back here and also a nice contrast. I think it would be a nice pop behind here as well, and kind of contrast with the grays and blues that are in here. There's also this gray pattern that has these little like hearts, little heart trails with the planes, and that could be a good layer to go under this photo as well. Okay, I think I'm gonna cut those down and see how that looks. All right, so I'm gonna start tucking these pieces in here. We have this one that's kind of on an angle, and then this one is gonna get tucked under here, something like that. I'm just kind of placing them for now, and we'll get more specific when I'm ready to start sticking these down. I also need to mat my photo. Now, there's supposed to be one more piece that comes out this side. It's kind of like a collection of little pieces. And I was thinking, oh, I could work in some of this blue, but I think it doesn't look the best with the blue that I have in the sky. The sky blue is different than the blue tones in this pack. So I'm thinking maybe another little piece of the gray, or I'll look and see if there's another pattern I want to bring in. I have to decide what pattern or cardstock is going to be behind this as well. Okay, I'm still working on paper placement, but I think I'm going to change directions. So I cut a piece of gray right here for under here. Now there's a lot of gray blue happening in these photos, so this kind of washes this out. So I have something in mind for that. But first off, I was deciding I don't like the gray up here next to my photo. And I have this piece with all the little passports on it. Since I was flying internationally, I think that does work. Look at that. I love that. Brings in some more color, a little bit more of those pops of red, and that definitely makes me happy. So now I just have a little chunk of the gray here to bring that pattern in, and then a range of colors in there. So then I thought I could get away with using the gray paper here. And there is matting for this, so I think that's where I can pop my photos. So I cut some Scarlet cardstock. I'm using the light side of Scarlet because that seems to be the side that they used. They used more a lighter tone. Now I like that, but it's a lot of red for me. I'm not a huge red fan. So I was thinking I could take the idea of the Toffee cardstock here, do 1/8 of an inch. Now this is a little bit different than the sketch has, but 1/8 of an inch in the Toffee, and then do the 1/4 inch in the Scarlet, in the red. And now I just have a touch of red It also makes the red in the ketchup pop there. But I think that is going to make me happy because either my background paper here, the strip behind it needs to be a little bit bolder, or the photo mats need to be a little bit bolder, because otherwise these photos just get completely washed out. And these ends are going to get dovetailed as well, but I'm just trying to figure out all my paper choices before I go and start sticking things down. Sometimes I don't do that, and usually I end up regretting it. So I'm loving how that's looking. They're all defined and like popping off the page right now. So I'm going to leave that like that. And then I want to bring in this pattern to this page. So I went ahead and cut down my photos to 3x3. Usually for 3x3 photos, that's what I do. I print them at 3x4 and then I trim them down. It's a lot easier than trying to do like a 4x6 down into a 3x3. So I've kind of laid them out the way I think I want them. I usually try and go for whichever way the people in there are facing. You know, because I'm facing this way, I want it on this side of the page. Same here. Doesn't always work out, but I think I got a pretty good balance in my photos. So I have cut another piece of that passport paper, and I'm thinking I want to put that over here somewhere. So I'm going to stick that there for now. We'll see if that's where it stays. And then I wanted to bring in some of this paper, which is in our background over here. And actually, maybe I'll slide that down. Yeah, because then I think I'm going to bring in that gray and mat it with the blue. So that's the same blue that's in here, the sapphire color. Now, my favorite paper in this pack is this green map print. I love this. I think there's so many different ways you could use it. And there's 3 photos on here that get matted. So this one, and this one. Just adds a little bit more color to the page. Then there's 2 little pieces that get tucked under here for layering, and so I decided to use this pattern again just to bring a little bit more of it in. And this way it's going to kind of go right across my page. It's subtle, it's a little layer, but it's not going to take attention away the same way as if I used a busier pattern. Now there's one more thing that's missing, and that is there's supposed to be a mat on this page. Now I don't really want to use this pattern because most of it's going to be lost. It's like a 1/4 of an inch border. So I was thinking I might just bring in Sapphire cardstock and just mat it like that. I know it's hard to see against the, there, that's a little easier for you to see. It's hard to see against the Versamat because it's so dark, but I think that should look good. Now, the only thing I'm really missing over here is some of the toffee, but I have to keep in mind that my embellishments are kind of that toffee color, and I'm probably going to end up using some of these over here. The other option is I could also mat these photos. These ones are not matted in the sketch, but I could mat them with that toffee if I decide I want to bring more of that in. I'm gonna hold off until we start working in the embellishments and just see what it's looking like. So I think I'm pretty much ready to start chopping up my paper. I am going to gut this big piece and this big piece so I can save the parts of that aren't showing, and then I will just start sticking it together. I did decide to use the Toffee cardstock behind my photo just because it's nice and neutral and it doesn't take attention away from my photo but gives it a nice frame. I'm really glad I'm getting these photos scrapped. This was such a big weekend. We had so much information given to us. We got to meet all the Stampin' Up! Staff. I got to meet Jeanette Linton, the owner of Close to My Heart, for the first time ever after being with the company for 15 years. So that was pretty amazing. And it actually gave me a lot of peace about the transition to Stampin' Up! And I will be going over, I have actually already signed up, and I will have a Stampin' Up! Website as of May 1st, which is just crazy. It's sad to see Close to My Heart going because there's so many things I love about Close to My Heart, but it was great to hear how dedicated Stampin' Up! Is to having a robust scrapbooking line and some of the things that we love about Close to My Heart that will be going over there. Plus, all of us makers who are going over, we will bring that Close to My Heart flair to their products and some of the new scrapbooking products as well. And I do think change is always easier with friends, so I was so happy to be there with Aaron and Jama and spend some more time with them, even after we just came back from Mexico. They are just so much fun, and I can't wait for the whole creative design team to be together in Vancouver very soon. We are going to have a blast. Now back to our layout, I am just sticking down these little pieces of paper. I decided to rip one edge just to give it a little bit of extra texture. And then I'm going to add these little file tabs. They are from the paperboard, so they have a little bit of thickness to them, but they still fit under the photos pretty well. I'm just gonna have to use my scissors to kind of lift it just a little bit. I put the adhesive a little close to the edge, so then I'm just gonna kind of slide it under there. On the left page, I was starting to play with embellishment ideas, title idea. I did dovetail the gray piece and stuck that down. I decided that title just was blending in too much to the page. I actually debating between putting it on top of the photo or putting it below the photo. In the sketch, the title is supposed to be below the photo. These are quite delicate letters, and with the layers, they kind of get lost a little bit. And I thought maybe the black would help. But then I really like how the black looks against that sky. That photo has a lot of like empty space with the sky up there. The rest of the like kind of bottom part of the photo was all buildings. So I tried to crop as much of that out as I could. And I think I really like how this looks up in the sky. And I think the black is a good contrast. You could always paint these or ink these. I was even thinking about painting them white, but I'm glad I went with the black. So I adhered those onto my photo, and now we're going to move on to some stamping. I have this heart stamp from the Let's Go Anywhere card making set, and I love this little plain trail as well, so I might try and work that in. But I thought heart, since I was going too close to my heart, it would just work out perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and just season that stamp a little bit. The stamps usually have a little bit of like a film on them from manufacturing, so if you rub it against your skin, it really helps, especially on solid images, to kind of get that film off so they'll pick up the ink a little bit better. I'm inking it up with pine ink, and then I usually like to have scrap paper on hand, just like printer paper, so I can test out my stamps, especially for the first time using it, and just stamp it a couple times and get it even more seasoned so I'm getting a good impression. If you notice, I also have the little foam sheet that comes in the stamp set underneath my paper, and that gives me extra cushion to give me a good stamped impression as well. Now I grabbed Sapphire because I wasn't sure what color I wanted this heart to be, and I didn't go ahead and stamp on scrap paper, and I was regretting that because it didn't stamp as nicely as I wanted it to, so I'm going to stamp it again, and I might as well fill up this paper while I'm at it. I can always keep these if any of them turn out well and use them on something else. I decided I wanted to try Scarlet as well because I'm thinking some red accents might be nice on this page. So I stamped it in Scarlet, and I'm going to go ahead, use the coordinating die and just die cut them all out and see what I think looks best. I do like the pine, but I also like the Scarlet, and then I was thinking if I add some other little embellishments in Scarlet, it might tie in really nice. So I decided to bring the pine in using some tags from the Buildable Tags die set. I cut them on pine cardstock, and then I'm just going to work them into my little cluster here. Now, I would have liked to do like a grouping of tags, but it was starting to look really busy if I tried to group them together. So I'm going to layer in some stickers instead, and then I have that little paperboard plain. I love that that sticker says follow your heart. It just goes perfectly. And I have removed the sticky on all my stickers, so when you see me moving them around, that's why, because I used my anti-static pouch to remove the sticky so that I could really play with it and test out placement. Now I'm using Mink ink to stamp the little plane with the heart trail on it, and it's not very easy to see on camera, but in person it's a really nice little detail. I'm moving this little plane around trying to figure out where I want to put that, and then I decided I wanted to stamp over on this side as well to kind of balance out the design. And I'm using large sticky notes to just mask off so that I don't get any ink onto my other papers. It works really well. I love these large size ones, and it's easy to mask off whatever you need to. I'm rotating the stamp to get different parts of it, so it's not just repeating the same parts of the stamp. I think Mink ink was a good choice because it's nice and subtle. It doesn't take away from everything, it just adds a little extra something. Now, of course, I can't leave my tags without something in them. If I ever try and leave a tag without some kind of twine or bow or something, all I can hear is Katie and Aaron in my head saying that there has to be something in there. So I pulled out some twine from my stash, and I'm just trying to figure out how I want to loop it in there. It's kind of sitting all strange there. So I decided that that was not going to work for me. So I'm going to actually thread it through and then tie in a knot. I did this recently on the cards that go with this collection. I did the card workshop with my customers on Zoom, and I ended up tying these little knots for the compass, and I really like how they look. They're kind of rustic. Now I am trying to flatten them so they're not super puffy and like sticking up. So that might be something to consider too. I kind of tried to stretch them out and squish them down a little bit so I don't have like all these bumps digging into my opposite page. So hopefully that will be okay. But I like how it looks, and I like that it's more rustic than a bow or something like that. I'm doing the same thing with the twine over on this tag for the right page, and you can see that piece of French vanilla cardstock that I stuck below it. That is for my journaling, which I'm going to print on the computer. So I'm just temporarily putting it there so that I remember that I have to do that. This Enjoy the Journey is from the black paperboard set, and it's super delicate. I love that it came out so nice and clean because they are laser cut. I had to very carefully glue those into place. And then I'm also going to put a sticker over here on this tab that says Explore Together, because we are definitely in this together, checking out, seeing what's going to happen. And I thought that would fit perfectly right there. I debated adding another little sticker to the file tab up on the top right, but I decided not to, and I'll show you why here in a second. This is the compass that comes with the card kit stamp set, stamp and die set, and so I just cut the face of it out of the white, the French vanilla, and then black for the base. I'm doing the same thing with knotting the twine. And then I have the little center part for the compass cut out of Toffee and Scarlet, and I'm actually just going to layer those together with a little bit of glue. I could definitely see getting quite a bit of use out of this die. I'm thinking about maybe storing it just with my dies instead of in the stamp set, because I think it could be good with all kinds of travel and outdoor layouts. And you can see up close that detail is really beautiful with all the little markings that the die makes. I'm just going to trim off a little bit of that twine. I got it a little bit too long. And then I decided to put the little word strip right across it instead of over top of the file tab. And I did that on foam tape, and I think it worked out really good. Now I'm masking off my corner because I'm going to go ahead and use the Mink ink with this little plane and little trails again. And I didn't worry about masking off the Sapphire cardstock because the Mink ink is quite light. And so if some got on there, you can't really see it anyways. Now, if the amount of things that I'm using on my layout is still overwhelming to you, feel free to cut it down even more. I could have done this layout with the paper pack, some cardstock, and the sticker sheet. I could have limited myself to that, but I didn't want to. So remember that putting limits on yourself actually makes you more creative. If you limit it to one stamp set or two stamp sets instead of your entire collection, you're more likely to be productive and come up with more creative things because you are limited. Now you may have noticed that I went ahead and added the Toffee mats to this page because it just didn't look quite right to me. And actually, I'm not done yet. So I thought I was done at this point, but then I decided to add some more of the black embellishments. You can see these geotags, the little X's, the little heart. I just felt like my clusters needed a little bit more pop, so I went in and added those little accents, which is a step that you could totally skip. But I love that extra little bit you could see up there in the top corner. On my tag, I ended up ripping the bottom of it off to add some more texture, and then I have a little black arrow over here. If you want to see the full pictures of these layouts, you can go over to my Instagram. And if you want another idea for using limited supplies on a layout, check out this video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.